Hello booktube, hello book friends. Welcome back to my channel and another video. And what I wanted to do today is the first part of what I think would be, initially at least, a two-part series on some of my favourite natural history books. So these aren't necessarily ranked in any particular order. They're not, I wouldn't say they're my top five, but I am going to stick to five. They're just five of my favourites. And what I'm going to do is two videos. I'm going to do one for the UK and one for the rest of the world. And I'm sticking to five just for the sake of making the video a reasonable length, and I'll do the same for the rest of the world, so 5 books. I think I will probably come back at some point at a later date and do 5 more, purely because I know how much I kind of struggled to get to 5. Particularly the rest of the world, I had like 20 books, I think, and it was a bit ridiculous to do a video, I think, of that length. But I might do another 5, and and then maybe another. I'll just see how it goes, see how popular it is anyway. So this one is just 5 of my favourites in not a particular order. If you've watched this channel before, you will recognise a couple of these at least, as they've been mentioned before. So I'll get those that I know I've mentioned before out of the way first. But they're not, it's not like the first one is my most favourite, or the fifth one is. They're not in any particular order. They happen to be in the order that they're on my desk. So so let's get started. So, as I say, no surprise, I have mentioned this book multiple times. This is Common Ground by Cowen. It is probably one of my favourites of all time. It's written by the author at a time in his life when he's recently moved house. He's moved to kind of the outskirts of Sheffield. There is basically an area of sort of edgeland, which is part woodland, part scrubland. There's a river that runs through it, and he goes out and explores that area and talks about it both from his perspective and from the perspective, as he perceives it, of the creatures that live there. I love this book. I've said before, it's one that I gift more than any others. So yeah, one of my favourites. Next up, and again I've mentioned this book before, The Darkness is Light Enough by Chris Ferris. Now, Chris Ferris is a pseudonym. She was a lady who had quite a bad back injury, or just bad back in general, and found it really difficult to sleep. So as a result, she would very often go out for a walk in the middle of the night because she couldn't sleep, take her dog with her, and she got to know the wildlife, particularly the nocturnal wildlife that was present in her local woodland and farmland. And I think, is there a map in the front of this one, or is it in one of the others? Can't see. No, can't see it. Anyway, so she gets to know the badgers, the foxes, hedgehogs, all the kind of nocturnal wildlife, to the extent, very much so, that the wildlife tends to come to tolerate her presence and sort of ignore it, even though she's there with her dog. So the badgers tend to just ignore her and her dog, the fact that they're there. Which gives her a unique opportunity to sort of follow them and see what they're up to. And it's just a wonderful book. It's written as a diary from from her diary she kept at the time, from the 1980s. So it's I this is just a wonderful book. I'm probably out of print now, but if you can find a copy, I would very much recommend reading it. Then next up, and this is probably a it's one of my favourites, but it would also be regarded as a classic of natural history writing, and that's The Peregrine by J.A. Baker. Now, J.A. Baker, I think he worked for the Automobile Association, the AA, but on his kind of weekends and holidays, he would go out on his bike with his binoculars and a notebook and so on, and observe the activity of peregrine falcons in his local area. And again, this is very much written as a diary from the diary he kept at the time, and it talks about their behaviour, the sorts of prey that they are catching, and it's just a fascinating account of both the peregrine falcon and the way it interacts with the local wildlife. My copy has the two other books that he wrote, The Hill of Summer and sort of further diaries, and both are just, and they're all fantastic. But the Peregrine in particular is a real classic of natural history writing. Then a book by an author that I've mentioned here before, which was the book I've mentioned before is Waterlog by Roger Deakin, and Roger Deakin also published two other books, Wildwood, and this one, Notes from Walnut Tree Farm, which I think was published posthumously. He died in, I think it was the early 2000s. Died young, unfortunately, because I think he would have gone on to write many other wonderful books. He was a founding member of Friends of the Earth and the charity Common Ground, which is no relation to the book. And yeah, this is the story of he bought basically a derelict farmhouse in Norfolk, and renovated it, and lived there for many years. And this is his story of the kind of things that were happening in and on and around the farm. There were many outbuildings and shepherd's huts and things that he would go and sleep in a shepherd's hut one evening, and then write about the experience. He had a moat that he would wild swim in, and it's just a lovely book, and again written as a diary, and different, very kind of short entries, just snippets of his life and the nature and wildlife around him. So yeah, Notes from Walnut Tree Farm, very much recommend that. And then number 5, finally, the final book I picked, is Rob Macfarlane's The Wild Places. This, I think, might be his second book, but this he sets out to basically see if there is any true wilderness left in the UK and Ireland. So he goes sort of all over all the places you would expect, the Highlands of Scotland and other kind of less wild places. And each chapter is split up into the kind of habitat, or broad habitat, that he's exploring. And again, this is just fascinating. The things that he sees, The one thing that has stuck with me is that I think, I don't know when he says it, but there are only 4 places in the UK, or there were at the time of writing. It might not be 4 anymore, it might be less. 4 places in the UK where you could go and not be able to hear road traffic in the distance. So, you know, that's quite, I mean, we're not a big country, obviously, but even so, that's, you know, quite a thing. So yeah, that's The Wild Places by Rob Macfarlane. And again, you know, the different places that he visits and so on. So those are my 5. As I say, I could have picked probably, you know, easily another 5, if not another 50, probably, if I really put my mind to it. But those were the ones that I think came into my head first when I started thinking about doing this video. So that's the UK, and I will come back in a separate video with 5 for the rest of the world, and yeah, probably release them a day apart or something. So yeah, if you have been, thank you for watching. If you've got any thoughts on any of those, if you can think of any that, you know, you would pick, then drop a comment below, and I will speak to you again next time. Take care now. Bye bye.